Alright, good morning and good Chodesh. It's Rosh Chodesh today. I've been really meaning to make this video really since over Yontiv, because this is something I only learned when I was, 18 years old, 19, 20 years old, I don't know. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but then I realized it wasn't yesterday either. And it should seem obvious. My Rosh Yeshiva knew about it, but even a lot of Rabbanim are not familiar with this. And it's just a little piece of, it's not even really dikduk. Most people would classify this as dikduk, as Hebrew grammar. But it's really just how to read Hebrew, and a lot of people get it wrong. I think, and the way to demonstrate it is as follows. Anybody who knows how to read Hebrew, you're taught, like this week's parsha is Noach. Now, if you look at it, now generally in Hebrew, the vowel that's underneath is pronounced after the consonant that it's on top of. So, following that general rule, it would be Nocha, right? You would read it Nocha. We don't read it as Nocha, we read it as Noach. So, otherwise the name would be Noha, but it's Noah. Same thing, the word Koach. There's a lot of words. Lefroach, whatever it is. Lisboach, whatever words there. It's not cha at the end, it's ach. That is a term we call the patach genuvah, which means the vowel, the pasach, the straight line is called pasach or patach. The straight horizontal line that you'll find underneath as a vowel in Hebrew is called, when it comes at the end of a word, and that word ends, we know with a ches, or a het, that it's called a patach genuvah, a stolen pasach, a stolen vowel, meaning it's relegated to the previous, it comes before the consonant as opposed to after the consonant as everything else. What people don't know is that the same rule applies not just for the ches. At most people, almost anybody who learns how to read Hebrew, you learn that the ches with the pasach, with the straight line, horizontal straight line under it, is pronounced ach and not cha if it's at the end of a word. If it's elsewhere in the word, it's still cha. Like it's still Chanukah. It's not achnukah. But if it's at the end of the word, and everybody knows this. Everybody who knows how to read Hebrew, even if they don't understand Hebrew, they're familiar. They've been taught this. But one thing that doesn't get taught is that ches is not the only letter that this happens to. It happens also to ayin, which is difficult for Ashkenazim to pronounce at all, and for sure people don't understand. Like if it's not Shema Yisrael, Shema Yisrael. If you look at some older transliterations of the Shema, it looks like it says Shmeng, S-H-E-M, or Shemang, S-H-E-M-A-N-G-Y, because really the ayin is this guttural sound that kind of has an N and a G kind of sounds. It's not, it's the same in Arabic also. But Ashkenazim tend to pronounce the aleph and the ayin the same way, both is silent. Really, the aleph isn't silent either, but I'm not sure how exactly to pronounce the aleph. It's certainly lighter than the ayin. But if you were to pronounce the ayin properly, when it comes at the end of the word with a pasach, like the word shema, the pronunciation of the ayin comes after the vowel, not before the vowel. So it's shema, shemang, shema. That's the. Now, it's not. I don't expect most Ashkenazim to pronounce the ayin that way. It's not our tradition necessarily, even though halachically it could be problematic. The Rambam is very clear that someone who pronounces an ayin like an aleph or an aleph like an ayin should not be leading prayers, and yet we all generally pronounce the ayin like the aleph. We don't pronounce the aleph like the ayin, although once in a while people make mistakes like that, especially people who are pronouncing the ayin and they go overboard. But the real reason I brought this up was because today we're saying Hallel, and the whole Yontif we said Hallel, and yet people, and I hear Rabbonim tell me that Chachamim make this mistake, and even when you try to correct them, it's a hergel, it's a habit, they won't be corrected. There's a word, if the other time when there's a pasach genuvah is with what we call a mapik hay, and generally any time when there's going to be the pasach at the end, it will be a mapik hay. What's a mapik hay? A mapik hay is a hay with a dot in the middle. With just people are not aware that they're familiar with bays and vays and kaf and chaf being different if you have the dot in there or not. That it's whether it's a hard sound or a soft sound, but that applies to other letters as well. It applies to and tough and suf for the Ashkenazim, which would really be tough and suf for the Sephardim. Really, to pronounce the suf as a hard T is most probably wrong for Sephardim. They should be pronouncing as a TH, like the Yemenites do, or at least a little bit softer. Shabbat, like it's not Shabbat, it's Shabbat. Whatever, or Shabbos, it depends. The Syrians tend to say Shabbat, and the pronouncing the comments the same essentially as a Pasach. The Persians tend to say Shabbat, that they do pronounce the comments differently, but it's not Shabbat, it's Shabbat. It's a softer T. The Persian way is probably a little bit more accurate in certain ways. But we're familiar only with those three letters that, with or without the dot, we change them, but the Dalet is the same. It could be Dalet or Dalet. The Gimel also, usually it's only the Yemenites who really pronounce this, but the fact of the matter is it says that you're supposed to, at the word Echad, at the end of the Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, they said you're supposed to extend the Dalet. How do you extend the Dalet? And the answer is it's a soft Dalet. That's how I learn it. I mean, I discussed it with my Rebbeim. They weren't so sure, but it makes sense to me. There is no dot in the Dalet, so it's not Echad. It's Echad, and you're really supposed to extend the Dalet. But again, the Ashkenazim, we don't really have this minhag to say it like this. But there are other letters like that, like we said, the Dalet, the Gimel. There are various customs among various Yemenite communities. Is the Gimel without the dot Gimel or Jimel? In modern Hebrew, they put an apostrophe next to a Gimel to indicate that it's Jimel, which I don't personally like. And they'll put it next to Tzadi in modern Hebrew, an apostrophe to make it like a ch sound, which also I think the more accurate ch sound is a tes with a shin or a tuf with a shin. that just naturally produces a ch sound, combining those two letters together. That's how you have a word like tshuva. It's really teshuvah, but we tend to pronounce this tshuva, and so I lived in Richmond, and that has a ch in it. That was an argument in how we would write Richmond in Hebrew. I would always write it with a tuf and a shin. With a tes and a shin, like in Yiddish. But some people write it with a chadi, I guess they call it, the tzadik with an apostrophe. But in a totally different category, we have the mapik hey, which is different than these other letters that might have a dot in the middle of the letter. Is that the mapik hey, generally all these other words, when the word is at the beginning of the word, it has a dot in the middle, so it's vase at the beginning, and when it's in the middle, it becomes vase. Kaf at the beginning is kaf, and the end is chaf, with some exceptions occasionally. But generally is that the mapik hey is pronounced really, it's only an issue at the end of a word. Meaning the question is like this: do you pronounce the hey at the end of a word or not? Meaning, is the hey in the beginning or middle of a word makes a H sound, but the H at the end of a word in English is generally silent. Especially, you have Hebrew transliterations, and there's this argument among the Hebrew transliterators as to whether you should put the H at the end of an English transliteration of Hebrew in a case where it is not a mapik hey. Most transliterators agree that you should have it, the H, for when it is a mapik hey, but not when it is another hey. So what do we mean by this? How exactly do we pronounce something like this? So, hey at the beginning, is ha. That's obvious. But the question is, what about at the end? So sometimes you have a mapik hey that comes after a kometz. So aleha, hallelujah, and then we're going to pronounce it here as a kuf out of respect, but it's really a yud, and it's a word people know, hallelujah, except the y instead of a k. It's interesting how the Catholic transliterations remove all the h's, and here you have a mapik hey that really you should have an h at the beginning and at the end, according to all opinions, because the h at the end is it's pronounced at the end. It's you pronounce clearly pronounce the hey, at the end of the word. But there's no mistake, at least. So even if meaning you're not pronouncing a hey where it doesn't belong. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because we have, when there is a patach genuvah with a mapik hey, quite often people make a mistake and totally mispronounce the word. And so we have a word which I feel I could even say, and it's not taking God's name in vain, because it's not how it's supposed to be pronounced, and yet people pronounce it like this. I'll pronounce it in the mispronounced way. And actually, since I'm teaching how to pronounce it, I could pronounce God's name. But I'm trying to explain what we're talking about here. It's there's in the Hallel, in Psalm, I guess it's Psalm 114. People often mispronounce and they say Eloha Yaakov, because they assume that the patach comes after the hey. But it's not so. It's a patach genuvah. The hey comes after the patach, just like you don't say nocha, you say noach. You don't say kocha, you say koach. You don't say Eloha Yaakov. It's Eloah. Meaning if you want to be respectful when you're not teaching and not praying, you would say Eloach. The hey is coming at the end. Another word like that has a patach genuvah. We know the name of the yeshiva of Lakewood is Beis Medrash Gavoah. It's not Beis Medrash Gavoha. It's Beis Medrash Gavoah. And I don't know if you can hear it on the recording to clarity, but there is a slight pronunciation of the hey at the end of the word, and it's similar to how we say noach, koach instead of nocha or nocha. It's not gavoha, it's gavoah. It's not Eloha, Eloka. That it's not even necessary to say Eloka because it's not. There is no such word as Eloha. Elokei is a word, and then you have a yud, Elokeinu, that we have, but there's no Eloha. So it's really not even necessary to say Eloka. But it's Eloach. It's at the end. And if you're not used to pronouncing a mapik hey, and you can't enunciate that, you have a hard time, at the very least you say Eloah. You don't say Eloha. I'm just trying to explain. It's really, in actuality, the accent is not on the at the end. It's Eloah. I'll say the K at the end. It's not Hallelujah. It's Hallelujah. If you look where the accent mark is on the syllable, and that does often change the meaning of the words. It's important. A lot of people, most things in Hebrew, the accent goes in the last syllable, but certain things, certain words, Elokeinu, it's not Elokeinu, it's Elokeinu. It's not Avoseinu, it's Avoseinu. That's also an issue of diktuk, but it also sometimes the words can be spelled exactly the same with the same vowels, but if you put the accent upon the wrong syllable, put the accent upon the wrong syllable, right? It's an old song. I remember, I think it was Eschatoy Animas Kayom. I think it was the Andrews sisters sang that, the Abbott and Costello movie. If I remember right, I remember. But the fact of the matter is, you can actually change the meaning of the words, whether melech or melech. It's melech ha'olam, not melech ha'olam, because melech, it's Hashem melech. When it depends on if you're using melech as a noun or as a verb. If it's a noun, then it's melech. That's why often the Hasidic pronunciation is melech ha'olam, because when they put the accent on the segel, they want to make a distinction between the accented segel and the unaccented segel, and so there's a reason why they say Melech ha'olam. It's not Melech ha'olam, it's Melech. They're both segel, but there's an accented segel and an unaccented segel. And so that's how they strengthen the accent by saying Melech ha'olam. When they say Hasidish, I mean Galician or Hungarian. The Hungarians generally will say Melech. They don't generally say Melech. Sometimes they give people a name and like in a nickname, say Melech. Then it's like over exaggerated a little bit. The Rebbe Melech. Why is that? But there's a diktuk reason for that. It's not ignorance. A lot of especially modern Orthodox people, or conservative or whatever, they think they're very into diktuk, but they don't even understand, the differences between the diktuk. Like it's the same thing. Not every comment is meaning they're making a difference where the comments falls. If it's a comments gadol, comments katan. So it's not burchi, it's barchi. It's I think a very good example of it is in Kaddish. We do say burich, but then it says I'm trying to think. There's an example where you have both like Nakdisha, Ritzach, Neyam Sich, Seitzach, Kurdish, alles. Chaim Kusiv, Al Yad Neviecho. Kadosh. I'm trying to think of an example when it comes at the end or the last syllable, then it's it's not ukshartum, it's ukshartam. It's not ikshartum, it's ikshartam. There's other examples. Shivchacho. I'm trying to remember. There's a very good example where you have both. Anyway, the point is that they're actually emphasizing certain aspects of diktuk that the that other forms do not by doing this. It's Baruch Hashem Hamvayrach, not Hamvayruch. And they're both the comments, but there's reasons in diktuk why one comments is and one comments is those pronunciations. The main thing I really want to bring out was this, that there's no such word as, we don't say Eloha Yaakov. It's another example of if you put the accent upon the wrong syllable, Molech, Hamolech, or Moilech, or Moilech. One is a name of Avodah Zarah, and one is the verb of reigning. Hamoilech mehoidevad kush, like in the Megillah. So these things like that, people should be familiar with them, and really learn them very well, because it does. You shouldn't be pronouncing Hebrew wrong. A lot of people, they get all stirred up. Is he pronouncing tough or suf? And every side, like they're like they don't want to hear you pronounce it the other way. It's one or the other, and that really doesn't matter that much. But as far as pronouncing things absolutely wrong with no question, there's absolutely no question that that it's wrong to say Eloha Yaakov. There is no such word as Eloha Yaakov. So you have to put the hey at the end. Whether you pronounce it or not, you're supposed to pronounce it at the end, ah. But even if you say ah instead of ha, at least you're not totally mispronouncing it. So, I don't mean this to be disrespectful to people who became used to this. I'm just correcting it, teaching. This is something I learned from my good friend Rabbi Avi Grossman, who has opened a wonderful yeshiva program in Eretz Yisrael. If anybody, they're looking for a program like what he has to offer, that's the type of program you want. He's a very great teacher, brilliant genius, and he taught me this, back in college, and it's a schus to pass it on, because this is not just like some modern diktuk thing. This is an actual, and really there is no such thing as that. But here it's like an actual. You're actually mispronouncing the word if you say Eloha. I remember someone was correcting me, I was I said something, this it was Rosh Chodesh, we're going to read tomorrow Hashemayim Kisi, and then Ayin Germani, the Maggid Shir Epis, he was like, it's not Kisi, it's Kisi. And I was like, I understand, when if I'm laying the Haftarah, it's Kisi, but if I'm just describing, I could say Kisi. I'm not, but that actually woke me up, to recognize, I mean, it's the same thing I hear people say Yisrael when it's Yisrael. It's Yisrael. You can't just say Yisrael when you're davening or laning or something. You have to say Yisrael. Yisrael. At least the Hasidim, when the Hungarians and the Litzianers, or even a lot of the Russians who do say U but don't say I, there's the squarers, and I guess they say Yisrael. They're pronouncing it. You're not ignoring that comments, under the Reish. I'm not a big fan of teaching language, Hebrew language. When I teach language, I prefer to teach it through teaching a text. Someone asked me to give a Yiddish class, and I was like, well, let's learn a text inside in Yiddish. In the shul where I was, we had the Ein Yaakov with the Yiddish translation. So we would read it in the Hebrew or the Aramaic, and then we'd read the Yiddish, and then we translate to English, and we'd discuss what these different words mean, but also be learning, Gemara, Medrash, whatever. Alright, wow, I took up a half hour talking about this subject, which I really thought this video would just take 2 minutes to explain that it's not Eloha. So if you already said Hallel and you said Eloha, I don't think you have to go back and daven Hallel over. But tomorrow when you say Hallel, hopefully you'll remember what I had to say and not say Eloha, but pronounce the hey at the end and say ah instead of ha. Or lo ah, or lo ah. It's really, again, the accent is on a lot of people, once they learn that, they tend to accent the ah at the end, and that's also wrong, because it's a lo and then ah. So hopefully we're gonna learn this and get this right, and not make this mistake anymore. Whoever's watching this, whoever made it to the end of this ridiculously long half-hour video, God bless you. Please like, share, and subscribe. The main thing is really not how we pronounce Hebrew or whatever, because you can pronounce in English. You can say in English, as they say, the Brisker Rav was trying very hard to pronounce Yosef with the ayin in the Kriya Shema, and then he realized, you can say you can say Hebrew, you could say it in English or in Yiddish, whatever. So he said Groz, because like he was trying so hard to say Yosef, how should he pronounce it? And then so then when he pronounced he just said, well, I'll just say it in Yiddish and say Groz, Gruz is how we would pronounce it, but even though according to what we just learned, it should be Groz. But in Yiddish generally it's like that. So he would just say grass, because he can't say Yosef. He was having a hard time pronouncing the ayin. But the fact of the matter is, I think a lot of Orthodox Jews who would just daven in Hebrew, if you would just, I don't mean just look with your eyes, but actually say out loud the words of davening in English, if English is your lingua franca, you're going to be like, whoa, I never realized just how beautiful the davening is. You wouldn't imagine, how spiritually uplifting it is to just read in English the davening that we say 3 times a day, or we say on special occasions, and just to read the words in English or whatever your native language is, you're going to be like, whoa, I never realized that this is what I was saying. Even if you know even if you understand Hebrew, reading it in English, whether Art Scroll, they translate things very beautifully. Even Philip Birnbaum, a few things I could argue with him how he translated, but I really like the way he translates. It's definitely updated from some of the older translations, and I like his methods of translating, and I tend to use his translation when I do English services. I much prefer Birnbaum to the new Reform and Conservative that are like bending over backwards to avoid anything to make everything gender neutral, and it sounds so ridiculous. It adds too many syllables, and it's not really accurate either. I much prefer Birnbaum, who is much more accurate, even though the only argument I could have on Professor Birnbaum was he translates Chasidav as faithful followers, when like how we colloquially say Hasidim, and I don't think in light particularly of the Hasidic movement, the modern Hasidic movement, and I don't think that is an accurate translation of any biblical text, that Hasidim and somehow means followers, the way we colloquially use it today, or use it in Yiddish as generally colloquialisms we can blame on Yiddish. The proper word would be pious ones or kind ones. Sometimes depending on if it's a very mixed type of crowd, I might use the word saints. Some people like that word, some people don't like it because it has a theological perspective in Catholicism, but really it is an apt word. There's really not that much of a difference theologically of how the veneration of saints in Catholicism, at least how it's understood in modern Catholicism, and I think how it's always been traditionally understood as the veneration of tzaddikim in the Hasidic movement and in other movements that have been influenced by Hasidism, Sephardic approaches, mystical Sephardic approaches. And it seems like it's traditional. It predates the Hasidic movement. This type of ideology, even it's not influenced by Catholicism. Just the opposite. Most likely, the Catholic idea of veneration of saints probably grew more out of Judaism, and it's not pagan in nature really, because you're not worshiping the saints. But veneration is different than worship. But these are things that we can discuss. That's really totally off topic, and again, we've gone well over time. I doubt anybody's really watching this, but it really doesn't matter. The reason I'm bringing this up is that it doesn't matter so much Hebrew, because you could just say things in English, and we'll generally say that someone has fulfilled their obligations. Even with mistaken Hebrew, and then a lot of the times the Hasidic Rebbes will find some cute idea that we can say when we're discussing mistakes that Jews might make when they're davening or learning or something. We're coming up to Hanukkah, and 2 months from now we'll be in the middle of Hanukkah, and we're just finishing today Tishrei, and there's one story that I heard that he said there was a simple Jew who he was listening to a drasha that said that Zos Hanukkah, the last day of Hanukkah, according to the Hasidim, is a little bit like Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. It's a very holy day, and it's like the ultimate end of the Yom Kippur season, in a way how like the Zohar discusses about Hoshana Rabbah. So then the Hasidim kind of say the last day of Hanukkah in a way. The way I've heard it is on Rosh Hashanah it's written, Yom Kippur it's sealed, and on Hoshana Rabbah it's delivered. The envelope is delivered with our din, but then on Zos Hanukkah the envelope gets opened, meaning it's kind of sitting on the desk until Zos Hanukkah, and that's like another opportunity to repent. And there are certain Sephardic congregations that also see Zos Hanukkah in this way, which kind of makes me feel that it also predates Hasidism, at least probably to other Kabbalists. But so the story goes, it was a simple ignorant Jew who heard this, and he said, "Oh, now I finally have an answer to a question I've had for a long time. That in the Sana Toikif it says Mi B'Chaniko, and I said, because it was the Indian Chanukah mit the Sana Toikif. Jetzt verstehe ich Mi B'Chaniko, when it says who by fire and by water and who by strangulation. And so the word for strangulation is Chanika, and he understood it he thought it had something to do with Hanukkah, even though it's spelled differently. Hanukkah has a kaf and Chanika has a kuf, but he thought it was talking about Hanukkah, the holiday, and he said, "Oh, now I understand, maybe Chanika." And I forgot which Rebbe the story goes, but he said, in Shemayim, the Malachim just went crazy. They absolutely loved that cute little story of this Yid who learned it like this, and found this Kiddush out of his ignorance. And there's other things like in Pirkei Avos. I saw there's a sefer from the previous Biala Rebbe, the Lava Stuvin, and Pirkei Avos, he says like that. He says, what does it say? It says, "Ein dan yechidi ela echad." there's no one who could judge by himself except for one, being God, and everybody else has to, go to a court with 3 judges, and or more judges to decide matters like this, and not just a single judge. But there's a simple Jew, I forgot, I think it was a Herschel Ribbenover. I don't remember where the story was, but he said like that. He said, b'divrei kodshecha kasuv lemor. It's not b'divrei kodshecha. B'divrei kodshecha. That was the one I wanted to say before with the comments. But anyway, nobody says kodshecha. That was my point, because it comes before a shva. So it's like the end of it, even though it's not the last syllable. It's like the end of a syllable. All right. But it's divrei kodshecha kusiv laimor. That's what I want to show, that they're both there. I knew it was in kedusha. So he said ein dan yechidi el echad. So he didn't chap. There's a ches, and even really the ches is really more like a hey. It's not like a chaf. But he read ein dan yehidi el echad. There's no one who could judge a yid, a Yehudi, a Jew, el echad, except for one, and that's Hashem. So. And it's true, even look at the Averas. This is a very personal thing. I was thinking, I was grasped by some addiction, and I spent a lot of money. What I think is a lot of money. I guess for other people's addictions, it's not that much money, but for me, it was a lot of money. And then I just felt so guilty afterwards. But then I realized, and I was like, I could have given tzedakah with this money. I could have, done mitzvahs with this money, and instead I wasted it on an avera. And I was feeling really bad about it. And then I woke up, and this is the thought I was like, you couldn't spend money on feeling so guilty that to do tshuva like that. And Baruch Hashem, I overcame. Maybe I didn't feel the same pull, but I overcame it. But I was talking about after the fact, not chas v'sholom, anyone should go. But I'm saying after the fact, meaning part of the thing is that because I spent money on it, I felt worse. Meaning if I didn't spend money, I probably wouldn't feel as guilty. And it woke me up. But I should feel guilty whether or not I spend money. It's a personal thing, whatever. But I woke up with that message. Was you couldn't spend money. That's what it means. Tshuva me'ahava is dernis nasis k'zachias. That it's the guilt that I felt. How do you have charata to really do tshuva? And in this way, I really felt charata. I really felt, guilty, and I really felt shame and regret for the sin that I did, and some, I don't know if that will give somebody chizik, but and it's interesting because I told myself I'm only gonna, when I went to do this avera, I told myself I'm only gonna spend this much, and then I wound up spending more, and then I stopped. But it's. I'm saying this out of, I feel very guilty about the sin, and I feel, but how do we do tshuva together? And that's why I'm talking about this openly, which I really shouldn't be doing. I'm saying this because maybe someone else might get. This message that I heard, this is clearly something min hashamayim. It might be from Tuma, I don't know, but the point is I'm hoping maybe someone else will get chizik from this. If anybody is listening this long, you deserve to get, there's something min hashamayim that you listen to this whole video, because it's 45 minutes already. I don't know why I'm still talking. I just can't. I have logria they call it. I'm not gonna I just can't stop talking. But I'm almost at work. I'm in the Bronx already. It's Erev Shabbos. I really want to talk about something else, maybe think about what I want to talk about in my drasha today, but we'll leave that, whatever's supposed to come will come, and hopefully people will enjoy the drasha from today. I'll try to record that as well. All right, God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and let's all grow together. Now that Yantiv is over, we gotta work on being in real life. And like I said before, we say, why do we read Acharei on Yom Kippur? Because what's important is not as much what we do on Yom Kippur, but what's Acharei, what's after Yom Kippur. So let's try to live our lives still with that. Try to tap it, even if we've messed up since then. We can still tap into the spirit of Yom Kippur and be blessed. All right, God bless you. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see more.